that it's actually rather pathetic that he can have a brother, Guerrilla Warfare X, that works in the tech space and that he's never seen this. The 5 customer segments of technology adoption. Back to Rogers' research, we see that not everyone will immediately adopt a disruptive idea despite obvious benefits. Over the years, Rogers identified some fascinating personality traits that help us organize how people will accept new innovation. It turns out that we approach innovations in the following ways. Innovators are 25% of the market. Innovators are the first individuals to adopt an innovation. Innovators are willing to take risks, the youngest in age, have the highest social class, have great financial liquidity, very social, have the closest contact to scientific sources and interaction with other innovators. Risk tolerance has them adopting technologies which may ultimately fail, financial resources to absorb these failures. And then there's the 13% category. This is the second fastest category of individuals who adopt an innovation. These individuals have the highest degree of opinion leadership among other adopter categories. Early adopters are typically younger in age, have a higher social status, have more financial liquidity, advanced education, and are more socially forward than late adopters. More discrete adoption choices than innovators realize judicious choices of adoption will help them maintain central communication position. The early majority. Individuals in this category adopt an innovation with varying degrees of time. This time, the time of adoption is significantly longer than the innovators and early adopters. Early majority tend to be slower in the adoption process and have above average social status, contact with early adopters, and seldom hold positions of opinion leadership in a system. And then finally, there's the late adopters. Individuals in this category will adopt an innovation after the average member of the society. These individuals approach an innovation with a high degree of skepticism after the majority of society has adopted the innovation. Late majorities are typically skeptical about an innovation and have below average social status, very little financial liquidity, in contact with others in the majority or an early majority, and very little opinion leadership. And then finally, there's the laggards, the 16%. Individuals in this category are the last to adopt an innovation. Unlike some of the previous categories, individuals show little to no opinion leadership. These individuals typically have an aversion to change agents and tend to be advanced in age. Laggards tend to be focused on tradition, likely to have the lowest social status, lowest financial liquidity, the oldest of all the other adopters, and in contact only with family members and close friends, with very little to no opinion leadership. If we were to graph these groups, we would see the standard bell-shaped curve. So which one are you, basically? It's important to note that individuals do not always line up as innovators in all areas of the decision-making process. For example, a person may adopt cutting-edge green technologies in their home with solar heating and yet do not belong to an online social network or own a smartphone. We bounce back and forth across the curve in large part based on the pain points that we're trying to solve and our interest in the underpinning the change presented. So this is what happens. First, the innovators finance in the economies of scale. Then the early adopters finance in even more economies of scale. Then the early adopters finance in the last little bit. The late adopters take it, and prices fall over time. Tech prices fall over time. And this is true for pretty much all technologies. Most technologies, or pretty much all of them, do not have prices that are set in stone. There's so much innovation that's taking out in price in those places that tech prices tend to fall over time. Tech prices tend to fall over time, and why we are in the middle of a shortage of chips, that is not going to last forever. And technology prices can't, reasons for falling prices of electronic goods and close and accept all. With any new technology, such as electronic goods, TVs, computers, cameras, we tend to see a sharp fall in price over time. Initially, the new technology is very expensive and a high percentage of disposable income, but over time, prices tend to fall considerably. There are a number of reasons to explain this fall in price. Quantum improvements in the technologies, reducing the cost of production, economies of scale from increasing production, increased competition as more firms enter the market, driving down prices, an element of price skimming, initial prices, high prices to take advantage of customers with inelastic demand. For examples of falling prices of high-tech TVs, 1950s Westinghouse first color TV, 11,875. 1995 Philips Fujitsu flat plasma screen, 22,924. 2007 Pioneer Kit Kuro, 7,064. 2012 Panasonic Plasma, 2,680. 2009 Hysini 65H9F LED 65-inch TV, 4K TV, $599. Why does new technology tend to fall in price significantly over time? Improvements in technology. The main driving force of falling prices of computers, electronic items is the rapid improvement in technologies that have occurred in the last 50 years. Moore's Law was an observation by Gordon Moore, the co-founder of Intel, that the number of transistors on a new integrated circuit doubles by about every 2 years. This leads to an exponential growth in computing power and consequently allows more computing power for lower cost. The improvement in microchips and computing power has enabled more powerful goods to be produced for lower cost. With good like TV, new technology has enabled better quality pictures with lower cost. Moore's law is starting to slow down. There will be a slowing in growth in technology as the size of the microchip gets smaller. There will be limits. However, improvement in technologies have often exceeded expectations. And then finally, then next, there's the economies of scale. When new electronic products are first put on the market, firms have low sales volume, and so they tend to have both high investment cost and less scope for economies of scale. As the market expands, however, firms can expand production and benefit from technical and other economies of scale. As production increase, average cost will fall. In 1955, TV sales were limited to a small section of the global market. In 2009, TV sales are substantially higher. Global sales in 2017 were estimated at 229 million. Small firm has higher average cost. Increasing output leads to lower average cost. That's the LRAC. Diagram shows how economies of scale can lead to lower average costs and lead to lower prices. Competition. As demand for electronic goods rises, it encourages more firms to enter the market, leading to an increase in supply and price competition to reduce prices. The market for TVs is now very competitive, with consumers easily able to compare prices online and buy the cheapest. With the increased supply puts downward pressure on pressure. When Apple first bought an iPad, it could sell for a premium price. In 2011, the release price was $399, but within a few years, companies had brought cheaper digital music players and pressured Apple to reduce its prices too. Now there are digital music players for less than $50. Price skimming. When new technology is released, there's an incentive for the company to set a high price to capture the demand of customers with very inelastic demand. Some consumers who love the latest tech are willing to pay high prices to get the latest electronic good trend. When the firm has had solid consumers with very inelastic demand, they can lower the price to sell to a wider audience. There's an explanation of how firms use price skimming to set prices higher for the latest 4K TVs. Why does the prices of mobile phones seem to be increasing? The price of electronic goods doesn't always fall. Apple iPhones has been increasing in price. Latest models tend to be more expensive. We're not seeing the same dramatic fall in prices. The reason is, rather than cutting prices, Apple is using improvements in technology to offer more features and more powerful phones. The goal is not to provide cheaper phones, but to provide better phones. As Apple phones are so integral to modern life, the price is not the most important factor. Quality and features are more important. Therefore, consumers are not necessarily seeking out a cheaper phone, but keen to upgrade even if more expensive. And full stop. Robots are expensive right now. That will not be the reality of robots going forward forever. I don't know why your brother works in the fucking space and doesn't know this.